At the reception desk, no one could understand the Japanese millionaire until the black janitor offered her a cup of coffee in Japanese. That Asian woman has been causing chaos at the front desk for over 40 minutes now. Sandra Morrison, manager of the luxury Grand Plaza Hotel, barked, gesturing wildly while three professional interpreters exchanged looks of pure defeat. Japanese billionaire Akiko Tanaka stood as still as a marble statue, her eyes carrying a volatile blend of mounting frustration and quiet contempt. Her personal assistant was frantically tapping away on a phone, likely to cancel million-dollar meetings that hinged on securing the right accommodation here. From her spot by the lobby entrance, Denise Washington quietly mopped the Italian marble floor, observing every move in the awkward standoff that had dragged on for nearly an hour. At 32, after 6 years working as a janitor in this five-star hotel, she had nearly mastered the art of being invisible. "Mr. Martinez, call someone else," Sandra ordered the now sweating receptionist. "This situation is turning into an international scandal." The third interpreter, a specialist in Asian languages, shook his head in defeat. "She doesn't speak Mandarin, Korean, or Thai. I've tried everything, but she just ignores us like we don't exist." Denise paused her scrubbing for a moment, staring at the Japanese businesswoman with an unreadable expression. In her eyes flickered a depth of understanding no one else at the reception seemed to notice, as if she alone truly grasped what was going on. Sandra paced, the sharp clack of her expensive heels echoing on the freshly cleaned marble. "If we don't resolve this in the next 15 minutes, I'll have to cancel the presidential suite booking. Imagine the financial loss to the hotel, Mrs. Tanaka owns one of the largest tech conglomerates in the world," a young receptionist whispered to his colleague. "If she leaves unhappy, our international reputation is toast." The Japanese woman finally spoke, her voice quick and precise, in her native tongue, punctuated by restrained yet elegant gestures. The interpreters glanced at each other, utterly lost, while Sandra rolled her eyes in exasperation. That was when Denise slowly straightened up, letting the cleaning rag drop beside the bucket of water. Every movement was deliberate, measured, as though she had just made an important decision after carefully watching this entire humiliating scene unfold. She had witnessed countless moments like this in this elitist environment, always keeping silent while the powerful belittled the less fortunate. But this time, the determined look in her eyes hinted at something different. No one in that opulent lobby could have guessed that Denise Washington held a secret powerful enough to turn this diplomatic crisis into something entirely unexpected, and her intervention would set off a chain of events that would forever shift the balance of power in the hotel. If you're enjoying this story of overcoming adversity and want to know the extraordinary secret Denise is hiding, don't forget to subscribe, because a so-called ordinary janitor is about to shake this entire hotel to its core. I'm out of patience. Sandra Morrison slammed her palm onto the marble counter, making every staff member flinch. That Asian woman is turning my hotel into an international joke. Akiko Tanaka remained poised and dignified, but Denise noticed the subtle clench of her hands whenever an insulting remark was made. Clearly, the businesswoman understood more English than she let on. Her expression revealed not just irritation at the language barrier, but deep offense at the crude treatment she was enduring. "Ms. Morrison," the receptionist said tensely, "maybe we should try a different approach." "Different how?" Sandra spun on her heel, eyes flashing with irritation. "I've wasted 2 hours of my schedule on this ridiculous situation. If she can't speak English, she shouldn't be staying at a world-class hotel in the United States." Denise felt a familiar heat rise in her chest, the same burn she always felt when witnessing arrogance dressed up as professionalism. Her grip on the broom tightened, memories flashing of the countless times she had been treated like an object by wealthy guests. The manager continued her tirade, now gesturing toward the small crowd that had gathered in the lobby. "Look at this. One of the most expensive suites in the hotel, and its occupant doesn't even know how to ask for a towel." "Sandra, please lower your voice," the head receptionist whispered, embarrassed by the very public scene. But Sandra Morrison had completely lost control, driven by the arrogance of someone who had never truly faced consequences. "No, I'm done with this so-called political correctness. This is an American company, and if anyone wants to use our premium services, they should know how to speak our language." In that instant, Denise's mind flashed back with absolute clarity to an incident years ago, the day she was unjustly fired from her previous cleaning company for standing up for a Latino coworker who had been humiliated simply because his English wasn't perfect. The bitter irony was that Denise was fluent in 5 languages, a skill she had gained during her years as a volunteer interpreter for humanitarian organizations, a past she had deliberately concealed in order to land this low-level job when she had been desperate. "Perhaps we should call security?" Sandra suggested, her voice dripping with calculated malice, glancing at Akiko Tanaka as if she were an unwelcome intruder. "If she can't communicate properly clearly, she doesn't belong here." The veiled threat rippled through the lobby, sparking murmurs of discomfort among the onlookers. Akiko Tanaka lifted her chin slightly, her posture radiating an unshakable calm and dignity that stood in stark contrast to the rudeness of the situation. Denise's chest tightened with growing anger as she recalled the 2 years she had spent studying Japanese while volunteering at a community center that supported Asian immigrants. She had dedicated countless evenings not only to learning the language but also to understanding its cultural subtleties, driven by a genuine passion for helping people facing the kind of barriers she knew all too well. "You know what really bothers me," Sandra went on with her toxic performance now clearly showing off for the audience of guests. "It's this idea that we have to adapt to them, when in reality they're the ones who should be making the effort to integrate into our culture." Akiko Tanaka's assistant finally lost patience, speaking rapidly to her employer in Japanese while gesturing toward the door. It was obvious they were considering canceling the booking and finding another hotel, a move that would cause severe financial loss and an international scandal for the Grand Plaza. Something shifted inside Denise. This was no longer just a quiet simmer of resentment. It was a growing resolve, the kind she had learned to nurture after years of facing prejudice in different environments. Her eyes briefly met Akiko Tanaka's, and in that almost imperceptible moment, the two women shared a silent understanding of what was truly unfolding in the hotel lobby. The Japanese businesswoman murmured something to her assistant, who immediately began typing on her phone, likely canceling not only the hotel reservation, but also multi-million-dollar contracts her company had been negotiating with American partners in the city. Sandra Morrison, blissfully unaware of the financial consequences her ignorance was about to trigger, continued her public display of intolerance, not realizing that every arrogant word was being quietly recorded in the memory of Denise, a woman who understood that real power sometimes emerges precisely when others expect your obedience. As the tension in the lobby reached breaking point, and Sandra Morrison prepared for her next public humiliation, something extraordinary began to spark in Denise Washington's eyes. It wasn't resignation or fear, it was a quiet determination, the kind that rises when someone decides it's finally time to turn years of injustice into a lesson no one will forget. Denise Washington had made her choice. She silently set the cleaning rag down on her cart and walked with steady, deliberate steps toward the group gathered around Akiko Tanaka. Her movements were slow and purposeful, as if she had rehearsed this moment in her mind for years. "Excuse me," she said softly, addressing the Japanese businesswoman directly. Her voice was gentle, but there was something in its tone that made heads turn. Sandra Morrison spun around, her eyes flashing with fury. "Excuse me, you're interrupting an important customer service matter. Get back to work immediately." But Denise never took her eyes off Akiko Tanaka. In flawless Kyoto-accented Japanese carrying the weight of years of deep cultural study, she spoke gently. "Tanaka-san, gomen nasai. Konohomu no omukai ga okurete shimate. Ms. Tanaka, my apologies for the delay in welcoming you to our hotel." The silence that followed seemed to swallow the room whole. Akiko Tanaka blinked several times as if unable to believe what she had just heard. Her expression shifted instantly from frustration to genuine relief, then to deep curiosity, as she regarded the black woman speaking Japanese with a precision few foreigners ever achieved. "Anata nihongo jozu desu ka?" Akiko asked, her voice tinged with astonishment. She wanted to know how Denise could speak Japanese so fluently. "Hai sukoshi dekimasu." Denise replied modestly, saying she could speak a little, though her mastery clearly went far beyond the basics. Sandra Morrison stood frozen, her jaw hanging open in shock. The three professional interpreters exchanged bewildered glances, realizing that a hotel janitor had just accomplished in seconds what they had failed to do in hours. "No way." Sandra finally found her voice, now tinged with a hint of panic. You can't. How could a janitor, possibly Akiko Tanaka, cut her off with a graceful flick of her hand, then turned to Denise and continued in Japanese, "Denise-san doko de nihongo, o mananda no totemo utsukushi hatsuon desu." Denise gave a subtle smile. The businesswoman was asking where she had learned Japanese and complimenting her beautiful pronunciation. Kyoto no daigaku de benkyou shimashita. Soshite Nihon no bunka ga daisuki desu. Denise replied, explaining that she had studied at a university in Kyoto and loved Japanese culture, a response that made Akiko's eyes light up. It was clear Denise didn't just speak the language, she understood the cultural nuances woven deep within it. Sandra Morrison, meanwhile, was having a public meltdown in the middle of the lobby. "This is impossible. You're a cleaning staff member. You're not even allowed to talk to guests." At that moment, Marcus Johnson, the senior front desk manager and the only black staff member in a leadership role at the hotel, stepped in discreetly. He had been watching the entire exchange, his gaze a mix of admiration and genuine concern for Denise. Ms. Morrison Marcus interjected diplomatically, "Perhaps we should let this situation resolve itself. Our guest finally seems to be receiving the proper attention she deserves." Attention from a janitor, Sandra had now lost all professional composure. "Marcus, do you see this? This woman is creating an international scandal." Ako Tanaka, who had understood every word of English spoken, turned to Sandra with an icy stare that seemed to lower the temperature in the room. In precise, clear English, with only the faintest trace of a Japanese accent, she said, "The only one creating a scandal here is you, Ms. Morrison." The shock hit fast and hard. Sandra staggered as if she had been slapped across the face. You've been speaking English this whole time," fluently Akko confirmed, her voice laced with restrained contempt. "And I understood every single racist and xenophobic remark you've made over the past 2 hours." The realization rippled through the lobby like a shockwave. Guests who had witnessed the public humiliation began whispering to one another, their expressions shifting from awkward discomfort to simmering outrage at Sandra's behavior. Marcus Johnson stepped closer, taking his place subtly beside Denise. "Ms. Washington," he said formally, using her last name for the first time, "I appreciate your assistance in handling this delicate situation." Denise gave a small nod, but in her eyes now there was something different, no longer the resignation of someone used to being invisible, but the quiet resolve of a woman who had decided it was time to show the world who she truly was. "Ms. Tanaka," Denise continued in Japanese, "if you permit, I'd like to clarify a few misunderstandings regarding your reservation. I believe we can resolve this quickly." Akiko nodded, her gaze filled with genuine gratitude and an ever-growing curiosity about the extraordinary woman who had stepped out of the shadows at the exact moment she needed it most. Realizing she had completely lost control of the situation, Sandra scrambled to reclaim the upper hand. "Denise Washington, you are hereby suspended from duty. Leave your post immediately." The threat echoed through the lobby, but this time it carried no weight. Denise looked straight at Sandra, and everyone present could see the change unfolding before their eyes. It wasn't fear. It wasn't submission. It was the quiet strength of someone who had finally decided to stop hiding who they really were. "I understand perfectly, Ms. Morrison," Denise replied, her voice so calm it bordered on the supernatural. "But before I leave, I want to make sure our guest is treated with the respect she deserves." What Sandra Morrison failed to see, blinded by her own arrogance and prejudice, was that every slight, every discriminatory gesture had been carefully noted by Denise. And not just Denise, Akiko Tanaka herself, a woman of international influence who could topple this prosperous hotel with a single phone call, had witnessed it all. As tension in the lobby reached its breaking point and Sandra prepared to continue her campaign of humiliation, something extraordinary began to take shape in the air. This was no longer just an employee defending a guest, it was the beginning of a turning point that would reveal the true nature of everyone present in this decisive moment. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. The Grand Plaza's opulent lobby had become a stage, and Sandra Morrison was about to learn she had chosen the wrong opponent for her display of prejudice and arrogance. With graceful precision, Ako Tanaka slipped her phone from her bag and tapped the screen, revealing a recording that had been running quietly the entire time she was being humiliated. "Ms. Morrison," she said, her voice like ice, "before this conversation ends, I'd like to clarify a few things about who I am." Sandra's panic was visible now, her face flushing red with anger, one moment turning pale with fear the next. I don't understand what's happening. This situation is completely out of control. My full name is Akiko Tanaka, CEO of Tanaka Technology International. The businesswoman continued, her words ringing through the lobby, which had fallen utterly silent. Our company holds corporate lodging contracts worth $12 million a year with American hotel chains. The silence that followed was so heavy you could hear someone swallow. Marcus Johnson closed his eyes briefly, fully aware of the scale of the disaster Sandra had just created. Other staff members exchanged looks of growing horror. And that's not all, Akko pressed on, unrelenting. I also serve on the International Tourism Council, which certifies accommodations for executive travelers from Asia. A negative review from me could terminate contracts worth tens of millions annually. Sandra Morrison's hands began to tremble. At last, she seemed to realize she was not dealing with an ordinary tourist, but with someone who could erase this hotel's reputation with a single decision. More importantly, Akko raised her voice slightly so everyone could hear. For the past 2 hours, I have recorded every prejudiced remark, every act of discrimination, and every xenophobic gesture that came from your mouth. That's not legal, Sandra stammered desperately. You can't record without permission. Marcus Johnson stepped forward, his tone still professional but firm. Actually, Ms. Morrison, in public areas like a hotel lobby, there's no expectation of privacy. And for the record, our entire security camera system has also captured everything. The realization hit Sandra like a tsunami. Not only had her words been recorded, but they had also been filmed by the hotel's own security system, creating irrefutable evidence of her conduct. With deliberate precision, Akko Tanaka tapped her phone again. I've already sent copies of this recording to the tourism boards of 4 countries, to the national management office of this hotel chain, and to my PR team in Tokyo. No, Sandra nearly screamed, her professionalism completely shattered. You can't destroy my career over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. This time, it was Denise Washington who spoke, her voice carrying a force never before heard in this hotel. Miss Morrison, I've worked here for 6 years, and I've witnessed countless situations like this. The only difference today is that your target has the power to defend herself. Akko nodded respectfully to Denise before delivering the final crushing blow. Ms. Washington, I want you to know that while observing this situation, I took the liberty of looking into your professional background. I discovered that you hold a degree in linguistics with a specialization in Asian cultures, have volunteered as an interpreter for humanitarian organizations, and are fluent in 5 languages. You are exactly the kind of talent my company is looking for as we expand operations in the United States. The shock on the faces of every staff member was immediate. For years, Denise had been treated as a replaceable worker, yet she possessed skills most hotel managers could only dream of. Marcus Johnson turned to Sandra, his voice heavy with disbelief and deep disappointment. Ms. Morrison, not only have you insulted one of our most important clients, but you've also overlooked an exceptional talent right under your nose. Sandra, now utterly desperate, tried to salvage the situation. I can explain. I was under pressure at the time. I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you said, Akko cut in coldly. And thanks to modern technology, your true opinions about those who are different are now permanently preserved. Sandra's phone began to ring nonstop. It was almost certainly her superiors, already aware of the international disaster she had just caused. Her hands shook so badly she could barely answer. Hello? Yes, Mr. Davidson. I can explain. No, sir. I didn't know she was... While Sandra stammered into the phone, Akko turned to Denise, offering a proposal that could change her life forever. Ms. Washington, I'd like to offer you the position of Cross-Cultural Relations Coordinator at our U.S. branch. Starting salary $90,000 a year with full benefits. The hotel lobby fell silent. In just a matter of hours, Denise had gone from an invisible housekeeper to an international executive, all because she had the courage to do the right thing at the right moment. Sandra Morrison hung up her face, drained of all color. I've been terminated, she said hoarsely. Terminated for gross misconduct. I'll never work in hospitality again. Justice had been served swiftly and completely. Sandra lost not only her job, but her reputation, her references, and every future opportunity in her career. Meanwhile, Denise was finally recognized for the extraordinary talent she had always been. As Sandra packed her belongings under the scornful eyes of colleagues who once admired her, one unspoken question hung in the charged air of the hotel lobby. Could a single act of courage and dignity rewrite decades of unchallenged rules about power and respect? It was proof that sometimes a true revolution begins with one person who refuses to stay invisible in the face of injustice. 6 months later, Denise Washington sat in her executive office at Tanaka Technology International, gazing out at the sweeping city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, a city she had once only known from the perspective of cleaning its bathrooms and hallways. Her transformation was complete and deeply inspiring. As an international cultural relations coordinator, she had launched diversity programs at 12 partner companies, built trade bridges between marginalized communities and the corporate world, and developed cultural training protocols that became a national standard. Denise. The meeting with the Japanese executives is confirmed for 3 p.m., announced her assistant Marcus Johnson, who had left the Grand Plaza to become her right-hand man at the new company. Their partnership had proven remarkable, two people who deeply understood the value of recognizing hidden talent. Perfect, Marcus. And how's our new intern doing? Denise asked, referring to a young Latina woman she had discovered working at another hotel, fluent in 4 languages, yet completely overlooked by management. She's exceeding all expectations, Marcus replied with a smile. Exactly as you predicted. At the same time, across the city, Sandra Morrison sat in her rundown apartment, flipping through the classifieds in search of any possible job opening. Her firing from the Grand Plaza had become a national scandal after Akiko Tanaka released audio recordings of her discriminatory behavior. Sandra's reputation was completely destroyed. No reputable hotel would even glance at her resume. Her own family had distanced themselves after her prejudices were made public, and she had lost not just her career, but her social standing and financial identity as well. On social media, her xenophobic remarks were still regularly brought up, turning her into a national cautionary tale about how prejudice and arrogance could destroy a life in just a few hours. Every attempt to rebuild her professional image was blocked by the viral video that had captured the moment of her complete humiliation. Meanwhile, the Grand Plaza had undergone a full cultural transformation. The new management, fully aware that the international scandal had nearly destroyed the hotel's reputation, implemented strict diversity and inclusion programs, mandatory cultural sensitivity training, and promotion policies based entirely on merit and performance. Akiko Tanaka not only became a regular guest, but also a minority investor in the hotel, ensuring that these changes would be lasting and meaningful. Her influence transformed the Grand Plaza into a national model for inclusive and respectful hospitality. You know what makes me proudest about this whole story? Akiko asked over lunch with Denise at her favorite Japanese restaurant. It's not just helping you find your rightful place, it's proving that when we truly recognize and embrace diversity, everyone wins. Denise nodded, recalling the decisive moment in the hotel lobby when she had chosen not to remain silent in the face of injustice. For years, I believed my education and skills were worthless simply because the people around me refused to acknowledge them. I've realized the problem was never me. And Sandra Morrison Akiko asked with genuine curiosity without a trace of malice. I heard she's working as a sales clerk in a department store, Denise replied, her tone free of gloating. I truly hope she's learned something valuable about respect and humility. Real justice isn't about destroying someone, it's about creating the chance for everyone to grow. That afternoon, as Denise led a virtual meeting with executives from 5 countries, translating and coordinating multi-million-dollar negotiations with the same confidence she once brought to scrubbing marble floors, she reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her here. Her story had become an inspiration to thousands through social media documentaries and motivational talks, not as a tale of ruthless revenge, but as proof that true power lies in recognizing your own worth, no matter what others think. The most valuable lesson Denise had learned and now shared with audiences worldwide was this: the best response to prejudice isn't hatred or bitterness, but undeniable excellence that forces even the harshest skeptics to acknowledge the truth. Sandra Morrison had tried to humiliate her, diminish her, and make her invisible. But in the end, Sandra had only created the conditions for Denise to shine with a strength she might never have discovered otherwise. Sometimes the greatest enemies inadvertently give you a gift by showing you your own true power. Today, as Denise Washington leads one of the most successful divisions of an international corporation, Sandra Morrison lives with the lasting consequences of mistaking temporary social status for a person's true value. It's living proof that real victory doesn't come from destroying those who wronged you, but from building something so extraordinary that every attempt to diminish you becomes meaningless. If this story of transformation and justice touches your heart, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their worth is not determined by others' recognition, but by the courage to show the world who they truly are, even when no one else believes in their potential.